Welcome to the Own It Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own It Powercast, a place where you can come to get what you need to move yourself forward. Hey, it's Mary Baker and welcome to episode 87. No matter what, real love starts with you. And if you've been hanging out with us this month, you know that this month we've been talking all about love, all the different kinds of love, what healthy love looks like, what toxic looks like, how to discern the two, and how love is so important for life. Well, this week I want to talk about where I think love, real love, actually begins. If you want to have great relationships, if you want to have a better life, then learning how to show yourself real love is the best place to start. I think that the opposite of showing ourselves love, genuine love, is called self-abandonment. And I'm sure you've heard of that concept before. Now, where does self-abandonment come from? Well, it is believed that it originates in childhood, actually growing up with parents who, for whatever reason, they were not available to meet your needs. Needs, we talk about your emotional needs, like validating your feelings, letting you have your feelings, giving you comfort, encouragement, love, discipline, attention, healthy attention. Let's discern that. You may have gotten a hell of a lot of negative attention, and maybe that's all the attention you got. Self-abandonment can happen when there are grown-ups in the home who are not being grown up. They're not emotionally mature. They're acting out, perhaps. They're falling apart. They can't keep it together. You have to watch your little sister. Maybe you have to make sure everything's okay. Maybe protect your mother from your father, whatever it may be. The bottom line is if you had to be parentified in any way, at whatever age, you had to learn to shut down your needs in order to do that. So you learned compulsive self-reliance. You learned not to trust as well. Maybe there were chaotic relationships in your childhood where people who were supposed to be trustworthy were not, aka your caregivers, your siblings, your aunts and uncles. The priest. They were supposed to be trustworthy grown-ups you could count on to take care of you, protect you, guide you, look out for you, and maybe that didn't happen. So you learned very quickly to only trust yourself. And that's a loaded sentence, one that we won't get into too deeply this session because we won't have time. When I say self-trust, you may have self-reliance, but my argument is when we abandon ourselves, we don't have self-trust really. But what you learned how to do is put everyone else's needs first in order to survive, in order to cope, in order to be okay in the family. Because asking for what we need is vulnerable, remember? And in a family that could not give you what you needed, you had to do something in order to survive. So you had to abandon the self. So what ways do you know that you might be abandoning yourself today? One of the ways you can know is that you're numbing out, either with substances, with food, shopping, chaos, work, other people's chaos. It doesn't matter. You're very caught up to the point of self-neglect, and you know what I'm talking about. So let's talk about more specifically ways you can abandon yourself. The first way you can abandon yourself is physically. And what I mean by that is not taking care of your body, not taking care of your physiology, not getting enough rest, not getting great nutrition, enough downtime and play, good exercise, maybe not taking care of yourself medically, not practicing prevention. Maybe you're wearing yourself out, exerting and doing way too much and not resting. You're not sleeping well. You've got so much stress going on, it's wreaking havoc with your body, creating illness. Maybe every time you turn around, you have another thing, another cold, another sinus infection, another backache, another migraine, another GI issue. Maybe you've become so used to ignoring your physical pain, probably because you have such a high tolerance because your cortisol levels are so high, and or you learned to withstand physical pain when you were younger and try to ignore it. Abandoning yourself physically. I don't mean the off day when you do a little too much, but you make up for it the rest of the week. We're talking here more chronically, okay? Where on average, you don't take great care of yourself. Another way we can abandon ourselves is financially, by not being responsible, by not being proactive. Maybe we're just too caught up and too busy to not take time to meet with a financial person, to get organized, to have a budget, to have a plan, and I dare say to be in reality. Maybe you're so busy fighting fires and putting them out without realizing that you're creating more fires to be put out next month. Maybe you're giving too much to others and not enough for yourself. Maybe people owe you money. Maybe you're living above your means and don't want to recognize that. Maybe you've been shopping to medicate feelings. You have to figure out where you are with this. But abandoning ourselves financially means not being in reality, not being disciplined, and not taking care of ourselves. This can create tremendous amounts of stress in your life. If you incur too much debt, if you're always worried about paying your bills, if it creates a lot of conflict between you and your partner over money, maybe you're the financially responsible one and they're not, and you keep cleaning up their mess, or you have to take on the extra part-time job to get yourselves out of debt. Maybe they have addiction issues, including gambling or shopping, that are hurting you financially. So all the ways you might not be taking care of yourself in this area. Another big way we can abandon ourselves is emotionally. Ignoring what you're feeling, why you're feeling it, and why this makes sense, and how this matters. Why anyone right now would have that feeling or that constellation of feelings. Here's the deal. Disowning our feelings, it can be a hell of a lot easier and less vulnerable, especially if you don't think there's anyone around to recognize your feelings and validate them. Another big reason we might ignore our feelings is because then we may have to sit in some reality, aka some shit. We might have to recognize that maybe we are very angry and we don't know what to do with that. Maybe we do feel used. Maybe we don't want to admit that, though, or admit that maybe we're not getting needs met in this marriage or at this job or from our family. If we sit still, we have to recognize feelings, and then we have to recognize some reality. And a lot of times we don't want to do that. Another big reason we may avoid this or try to sidestep it by staying too busy and running from ourselves is ignoring grief, right? Big things you might need to grieve. Past trauma, a recent big loss, an impending loss of a relationship, if you have to make big changes, set boundaries, and blow stuff up. There are good reasons why you don't want to sit with that. So it's easier to ignore how you feel. How you feel makes it real, right? But you know that abandoning how you feel is abandoning you. We can't have it both ways. We can't be in touch with us and honoring ourselves while ignoring how we feel. It's just not possible. Another way you can abandon yourself is relationally. I was reading a book recently about parenting the self, and they talked about picking empty wells. Empty wells, folks who couldn't and won't be able to give us what we need. If you look back over your life, you probably have a pattern of empty wells. People who let you down, people who were irresponsible or meant well but were so damn emotionally immature that there was no way they could pull it off and give you what you needed because they didn't want to face reality and the work that it would take in order to be that person for you. Maybe you pick selfish people so wounded and self-absorbed, in so much pain. maybe an addiction, maybe just an irresponsibility or addicted to chaos, that there's no way they have anything to give you. And here you are, abandoned again, right? If you keep picking people like that, that's not your fault and your responsibility to change it. There are some big consequences to abandoning ourselves. The biggest, most obvious one is that we lose who we are. We become so disconnected to what we think, feel, and need and believe and want. We're so caught up and focused on everything and everyone outside of us, we don't even know what we're about anymore. So guess what we do? We lash out, and blame others for abandoning us. Because now we have outsourced all that lovely power to those in our life. This happens primarily in romantic partnerships, marriages, but it can also be with your adult children, because maybe you feel like they're not making enough time for you because you don't take responsibility for self-care, because you don't find things for yourself to do in retirement, or as they become teenagers and don't want you hovering anymore. You lost yourself taking care of them, and now you're angry at them for not being what you need, for not supplying all those needs for you. You create chaos in your life when you're abandoning yourself. You get sick, you get hurt, you lose jobs, you lose relationships. There are fires constantly to be put out. It's a mess. There are no good reasons to turn away from ourselves. No one benefits. It's okay in the moment to put your stuff aside and take care of a sick child or an ailing grandparent or a financial crisis. Okay. But I want you to notice whether these things are acute or are they chronic. Acute things happen because maybe we caused them and we learned our lesson, but a lot of times things that happen outside of our control. Pandemic is a really good example. But we still have to take care of ourselves during this pandemic. We still have to take responsibility for our mental well-being and our physical health and our emotional health and our financial health the best we can. So real love means not abandoning yourself, obviously. And first off, it means getting honest with yourself, gut leveling without judgment, please. It means realizing what's happening, what the patterns are. And yeah, you're in this shit again, aren't you? And recognizing what can be done to do and be healthier. Okay, so you lost yourself in that new romantic relationship, and this ain't the first time. Okay, so you're learning, and you want to get out of that and turn back towards yourself and love you. What does real love mean? It means setting boundaries first and foremost. You've heard me say all the time, if you can't figure out what's going on, but it's a mess, sit there and figure out, where are the boundaries? Do I have any? Have I been setting any for myself? Have I been articulating them to others? Have I been making them real in my life? Probably not. Boundaries around your time, your space, your energy, your thoughts, and your emotions, and your desires, your vulnerable things. This means saying no to others at times. It means detaching and walking away and separating yourself from toxicity, no matter how big or small of a chunk that toxicity is today. Over time, it is so corrosive. Obviously, the more gaslighting-ish it is, the more toxic, the more I want you to get away from it as much as you can. It means saying no to medicating anymore, to running, to sticking your head back in the sand by minimizing, rationalizing, covering it over, putting lipstick on it. Real love means gathering the courage to not answer the phone when she calls to pester and manipulate you again. To walk away when someone decides to shame or yell at you in a nasty way just to lash out. Loving you means saying no to yourself. Self-discipline, remember? Means not piling on. You people who do this, you know what I'm talking about. Working on one thing at a time, being realistic, Not overpromising, underpromising, and over-delivering, even if that is just to yourself. Not sabotaging yourself. Not allowing any more self-abuse. And procrastinating is self-abuse. It means being good and healthy. It means that's it from here on. I'm keeping it simple. Real love means showing yourself that you get it. You know now it's only you who can really honor you before anyone else will. By owning this, you've just taken back your power. And here are a few ways to really follow through and not just say it, not pay it lip service, but really follow through. Nurturing and compassion are a big first step. Just give yourself a hug. Have a good cry. Sit on the bed. It's okay. Take a hot shower, a nap, a day off, an hour off, maybe a day alone to regroup, go for a walk, journal, cry to a friend. Feed yourself in healthy ways. Honesty with compassion. Grace with truth. The truth means you're going to show up and you're going to face this. You're going to do it with grace and love and self-compassion because you're not perfect. And if you abandon yourself, the origins of that are not your fault. They're not your fault. And you can change this so easily. Another way is allowing yourself to receive support, help, and caring from healthy others. Healthy others. You know, guys, when it's too much, it's too much. It means it's bigger than you and you can't do it all by yourself. I mean, as long as we're being responsible and not creating chaos by not playing helpless, playing victim, hanging on the cross. I mean, as long as we're not doing those things, we're owning our situation, right? You need to ask for help with moving, with painting, with figuring out a problem, with expertise you don't have, with figuring out your feelings sometimes, maybe your fears, sharing when you've really screwed up and you need some solace and encouragement and a loving kick in the ass. When we reach out, we become more vulnerable, a hell of a lot more humble, open, teachable. We feel connected, belonged to, and loved. Again, healthy people only, please, or healthier, healthy enough. Healthy enough to not judge you when you call them. That's what I mean. Healthy enough to not jump in and rescue you, fix your feelings, and deny what's reality for you. They let you have your reality and they try to show up and be there to support you in healthy ways. Real self-love means taking care of things too. You know, self-care is not just a spa day. It means paying your bills, if you can, taking care of your home, taking care of your car, your career, your future. It means taking care of your relationships. Have you been there? Have you been a good friend? Have you asked how they're doing? Have you checked in? Have you told people you love them? Have you confronted difficult situations with people? Have you told them no? Have you thanked them? Have you been dealing with problems as they arise instead of catastrophizing or ignoring or procrastinating? Dealing is self-care. Making time to learn and grow, too. You don't got this yet. You need help. You might need education. You might need some humility to allow a loved one to point out, hey, have you looked at this? It means asking for help to do this if necessary. And a lot of us don't want to do that because then we have to admit what we effed up, what we have neglected, what we were silly about and didn't make good decisions around. We have to reveal that. And that's difficult, but you know this. Once you get that off your chest, the relief that comes is palpable. Then you can get some help. Finally, real self-love is about detaching and choosing and not focusing on others anymore. By allowing them to have their choices. I think your self-care is going to increase automatically once you sit down and realize how much of other people's stuff you've been caught up in lately. All that lovely stuff you have zero power to change. Zero. So these are some ways you can begin practicing self-care. Like we've talked about before, start small. You'll gather momentum as you gather successes as you go. Even if you just do one thing this week, like go to bed earlier, you're going to notice the impacts on everything else in your day when you get more sleep. You know that. You're going to be able to start tackling other things. So pick the thing that is hurting the most, is what I tell clients. What's on fire the most? What is impacting everything else the most that you can think? And or what is time sensitive? Do what you can this week that will build momentum and courage and motivation to do more. This is not about perfect, it's about progress. Some of the benefits that you're going to feel, and maybe you fell off the horse and you've been here before and you know how good it is. When you start taking care of yourself, you're going to feel more grounded, serene, a lot less anxious and irritable, a lot less compulsive mind racing thoughts, a lot clearer, a lot quieter. You're going to be more in the moment. You're going to feel more organized and clear-headed and able to focus on tasks at hand. Therefore, you're going to be better able to plan and be proactive. And a lot of self-care is warding off bad things by being proactive, right? Having an emergency fund. Having extra supplies on hand before the weather hits, kind of thing. Others are going to notice this. They may not be able to put their finger on why, but you're going to seem so much nicer to be around. They're going to gravitate more toward you. They're going to feel less stressed. If you have kids at home, their anxiety and acting out, is going to go down. Our anxiety makes them anxious, guys. It's awful. You're going to be a better parent, a better spouse, a better partner, a better friend, a better colleague, a better son or daughter. More and more we'll be able to count on you to be responsible, open, loving, kind, less reactive, and joyful. You won't need the rescue anymore. Yeah, that. You know what I'm talking about? The money to bail you out. The emotional rescue because you got yourself into another nasty relationship. The medical care that you're going to need from self-neglect. You won't need that. At least not as much. You won't need to compulsively rescue others to run from yourself and to feel powerful either. You're going to be able to feel more joy in moments and some happiness as you go. And finally, you're going to get better with practice, and you're going to want more and better for yourself, just as with anything. And life's going to get better. Your quality of life is going to get a lot better. What you feel you deserve is going to increase, and you're going to want good things in your life. You're going to want more loving relationships, a nicer environment to live in, more fulfilling work, a healthier body, and a relaxed spirit. A couple of questions I want you to kind of ponder before you go today. The first one, what would happen if you paid more attention to the ways you might have been abandoning yourself? Like, what would that be like? What would that feel like? What comes up as you even hear that question being asked? If shame comes up, put it down and replace it with compassion, understanding, and truth. I want you to think this week about what selfishness means for you. Who told you what selfish was? What messages did you hear growing up or maybe even in your current relationship? Because manipulators will make you feel like you're selfish when you set a boundary or ask for what you need. So I want you to take a look at that. What would it mean to show yourself more love this week? How would that secretly feel fabulous, right? So today we talked all about self-abandonment, how we get there, how it can happen oh so easily. And then ways to get back to taking better care of ourselves, knowing that we can always return to self-love at any moment. That's the beautiful thing. And how we can always aspire for better without shame and perfectionism. Self-abandonment can happen overnight or so slowly and insidiously you don't even notice. It's okay. Today, you know you need to stop and pay attention, ask your best friends what they think, and just get back on the horse of self-care. That's all. Life is long in one regard. We're going to fall off, we just get right back on. Thank you for joining me today. May you stay healthy, loving yourself this week. Hold on to hope and be the hope. Be sure to check the show notes at ownitpowercast.com. Get your newsletter each Tuesday. Join our Facebook group if you want to hang out, have some good conversations, and take good care of you. All right, so pay it forward. Keep focusing on you, and I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you could begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.